No, we finally got my yeah, we finally got my son-in-law's mother hooked up with oxygen with Red Cross, so I don't have to go up there. I am on. Hey, welcome to a Dot Ariel Hebrew class. This is number 12 in 20 lessons. So I hope everybody's ready. I got an assignment for you next week. Is everybody ready for it? You want to write it down? Huh? I want you to look up REST, REST. Yep. And tell me how that relates to Yah, YAH. You've learned enough Hebrew now and Hebrew vowels and everything, and you know about Paleo Hebrew. Okay, I want you to look up the word rest, but you'll have to look up the Hebrew word for rest and tell me how it relates to Yah, YAH. Okay? And I want you to show me the mapping that you did so that I can understand it. Okay? Right? What? Yep. I want you to look up, you can look it up anywhere. The Hebrew um, standard is that it's first use. So if you look it up and see where it's the first time that Yah is used, and then look up the first time that rest is used, and then you can plot a little map for me from one to the other and show me how they interrelate. That sound okay? Everybody? Yeah, yeah, yeah. REST is the English word. REST. So you have to look right. Yep. Well, no, you can't cheat. Are we ready? Let's go ahead and start the lesson.
Gimel Hey Tav Zayin Chet Tet Yud Kaf Chaf Nun Sabachai Pei Tzadi Kuf Resh Shin Sim Taf. Now I think I've said enough.
Welcome to this edition of From the Aleph Bet, a program for anyone of any age who wishes to learn how to read and understand Hebrew, especially the Hebrew that's used in the experience of Judaism. I'm Mark Golub. Once again, thank you for joining us, and thank you for letting us come into your home and explain Hebrew to you. And I want to thank all of you again who've been in touch with me with such lovely things to say about From the Aleph Bet and about me personally. It is both gratifying and encouraging. And all of us who work on From the Aleph Bet, thank you so much. I want to begin right away with a new Hebrew letter. I'm going to show you a letter that you've learned before. This is the letter Bet, Mitsuyan. And the letter Bet has inside a dot, which is called a dagesh, Mitsuyan. Now, I've already told you that almost any Hebrew letter in the Hebrew alphabet can have a dagesh, and the dagesh will not change the sound that letter makes. So, for example, if we look at this letter, one of my favorite letters, the galloping gimel, if we put a dagesh into the gimel, it's still pronounced as the hard G in English, the G sound, with or without the dagesh. How about this letter? Another one of my favorite letters, the letter Lamed, right? This makes the sound of the English letter L. And if you put a dagesh into the Lamed, it still makes the L sound, does not change the sound of the letter. One more Hebrew letter. This is the first letter we taught you. It is the letter Shin. It makes the SH sound in English, the sh sound. And the Shin has a dot over the right hand, what I call sail. But you can put a dagesh into the Shin, and this dagesh does not change the sound the letter makes. It is still pronounced sh. It is the letter Shin. But I have also taught you that there are 3 Hebrew letters which do change their sound depending on whether they do or do not have a dagesh inside. We've already learned 2 of the 3. Here's the first letter. This is the letter Pei, correct. And if you take a dagesh out of the Pei, it's still a Pei, but it is pronounced Fei, as an F, Mitsuyan, as the English letter F. Fei. And again, I have to reemphasize over and over again, the Pei and the Fei are the same letter. They're both the letter Pei. But with a dagesh, the Pei is pronounced as a P. Without a dagesh, the Pei is pronounced as an F, and therefore we call it a Fei. And I can't tell you how many people have seen from the Aleph Bet and have said to me, I never knew that the Pei and the Fei were the same letter. They are. And it's important to understand, especially when you begin to translate Hebrew, which is what this program from the Aleph Bet is all about, making sure you understand Hebrew as a real language. And here is the other letter we've taught you already that does change sound depending on whether it does or does not have a dagesh. This is the letter Kaf, Mitsuyan. And if you take the dagesh out of the Kaf, it's still a Kaf, but it is pronounced Chaf, the slight clearing of the throat. The same sound as the letter Chet makes. Good. The Chet and the Chaf make the same sound in Hebrew. But the Chaf and the Kaf are the same letter. They're both a Kaf, either with or without a dagesh. With a dagesh, it is pronounced as a K, a Kaf. Without a dagesh, the Kaf is pronounced as a Chaf, slight clearing of the throat. But again, the Kaf and the Chaf are the same Hebrew letter. And now I want to show you the third Hebrew letter, the only other Hebrew letter which does change sound depending on whether it does or does not have a dagesh. You know this Hebrew letter. This is the Hebrew letter Bet, Mitsuyan, Bet. And the Bet has a dagesh. If you take the dagesh out of the Bet, it is no longer pronounced as a B in English, but as a V in English. And therefore we call it a vet. A vet. This letter is pronounced as the English letter V. And what you must remember is that the vet is a bet without a dagesh. The bet and the vet are the same Hebrew letter, but they're pronounced differently depending whether there is or is not a dagesh inside the letter. So look at this Hebrew syllable and tell me if you can pronounce this simple Hebrew syllable. And again, I remind you that Hebrew is always read down and then right to left. So you would simply take the sound of the vet, the V, and add the vowel sound under it. And hopefully you remember that the vowel sound here is the sound ah. It's the vowel patach. And therefore this Hebrew syllable is pronounced va, Mitsuyan. And you'll also remember there's always one vowel for each Hebrew syllable, always a 1-to-1 correlation between the number of vowels in a word and the number of syllables in a word. So this is simply one syllable. How about if we change the vowel? How would you pronounce this syllable? Va is correct again, mitsuyan. This is the kamats. Let's take a different vowel. How would you pronounce this syllable? Vo is correct with the cholim. And you'll remember that if you take the vertical line out of this vowel, it is still pronounced as an O, and therefore the syllable here is also vo, mitsuyan. And again, Israelis tend to pronounce it a little bit shorter and softer, vo, instead of vo, vo. Mitsuyan. How about this syllable? Vu is correct. This is the shuruk, and it's the U vowel in Hebrew. And there's one more U vowel. Here it is. It's the kubutz, and you'd pronounce this syllable Vu again, mitsuyan. Let's try the dotted vowels. One dot under a vet. You'd pronounce this syllable, the hirik, V, mitsuyan. How about two dots? The tsere, very nice. Ve, mitsuyan. How about the segol, three dots? Ve, mitsuyan. And you'll remember you can add a yud to each of the dotted vowels and it does not change the sound of the vowel. So here we have a hirik followed by a yud, and the syllable is V again, mitsuyan. Here's a tsere with a yud, the syllable is Ve, mitsuyan. And here's a segol with a yud. And again, it does not change sound. It is pronounced Ve, mitsuyan. So there you have the Hebrew letter vet, which is really a bet without a dagesh, plus all the Hebrew vowels that you might see with the vet. And now I want to show you a Hebrew word you already know. This is a word we've taught you before. It has under the first letter a shva. And I'll remind you that the shva is the only set of dots in Hebrew which are never counted as a vowel. Alex, is a shva ever counted as a vowel?
Never.
Never. Alex, he knows his Hebrew. A shva is never counted as a vowel, mitsuyan. Even if it's pronounced, and we've taught you that a shva can either be pronounced or silent. If it's silent, a shva ends a syllable or closes it. If a shva is pronounced, it begins or opens the syllable, and then it is pronounced I, a short I, as in the English word fish. But a shva never stands alone. It is always added to the beginning or the end of an existing syllable. So here you see a Hebrew word we've shown you before. How many vowels in this word? If you said two, you are correct. We have the kamats under the resh and the kamats under the chaf. And therefore there are two syllables in this word. Where would you draw a line to divide this word into two syllables? If you said after the resh, you're absolutely right. So the first syllable here would be bira, mitsuyan, bira. Not bira, but bira. Mitsuyan. Sort of like a grace note. Bira, bira. One syllable. Now take a look at the second syllable. How would you pronounce it? And if you said cha, you'd be correct. That's the chaf with a kamats followed by a hey, and a hey is silent at the end of a word. Cha. So put the word together. Bracha is correct. Mitsuyan. Bracha. And bracha means blessing, mitsuyan. We also taught you that bracha is built on the three-letter root, bet, resh, kaf. Anytime you see these three letters in a row, you know it has something to do with blessing. And so bracha means a blessing. Bracha is the noun, a blessing. Bracha is even a name given to many Jewish women. You can call a woman bracha, a lovely Hebrew name for a woman. And now let's see what happens if we add a vowel in front of the word bracha. We're going to take this vowel U, the shuruk, and we're going to use it as a prefix. We're going to put it in front of a word. And the vowel U as a prefix is the equivalent of the word and in English. If you see U at the beginning of a Hebrew word, it means and. And therefore, you already know what this word means in English, and a blessing. But watch what happens to the letter bet when we put an U in front of it. Notice the dagesh disappears. After U, we never write a letter with a dagesh. And therefore, the pronunciation of this word is not U biracha, but U viracha. Mitsuyan. U viracha. And a blessing. And I show you this so you can see that the letter bet always is the letter bet in the spelling of the word bracha, blessing in Hebrew, but it is pronounced either as a bet or a vet, depending on whether it comes at the beginning of a word or not. When a bet is preceded by an u, the dagesh always is removed and the bet is pronounced as a vet. But the Hebrew root remains the same, bet, resh, kaf. The meaning remains the same, bracha, and lo and behold, bracha means blessing, and uviracha means and a blessing. And the important thing again here is to understand that the bet and the vet is the same letter. When you spell a Hebrew word, you never put the dots and dashes in anyway. You only look for the Hebrew root, and the root is bet, resh, kaf, even though there is no dagesh written in any of these three letters. And in Hebrew, whether a letter does or does not have a dagesh does not change whether it is the same letter. It does sometimes change the sound in three cases: the pei and the fei, the kaf and the chaf, and the bet and the vet. But the letters are always the same: pei, kaf, bet. So now that you've learned the letter bet and vet, how about this new Hebrew letter? Take a look at this letter. It's very easy to remember the sound this letter makes because it's the only Hebrew letter, the only one that is open at the top. This letter is open at the top. It's the only letter open at the top. What sound do you think this letter makes? The English letter T is correct. This letter makes the same sound as the letter tough. These two letters make the same sound, but this letter is called a tet. It rhymes with bet. This is the tet, and it's the only Hebrew letter open at the top. And the tet always makes the T sound, never any other sound. Even if we put a dagesh into the tet, it is still a T sound. T for tet. So let's take a look now at the tet with a couple of Hebrew vowels. How will you pronounce this syllable? With the patach, ta is correct. How about this Hebrew vowel with the hirik? T is correct. And if we add the yud, it's still T. And how about this Hebrew vowel? Adding the shuruk, it is simply tu. And if we add a tuf to this syllable, you get the word tut. Mitsuyan. Tet, shuruk, tuf, tut. Mitsuyan. So now you know the Hebrew letter tet. Let me show you perhaps the most important word that begins with the letter tet. This is a very good word. It's a wonderful word. See if you can read this word. It has both of our two Hebrew letters, the tet and the vet, with a cholam in between. How would you pronounce this one-syllable Hebrew word? Tov is correct, or Tov. We'll say Tov, Mitsuyan. And it would really be good if you knew the translation of this word. It would be so good if you knew the translation of the word Tov. Alex, do you know the translation of the word Tov?
Yes, I do.
What is it, Alex?
You just said it before. It's good.
Good is correct. This is how you say good in Hebrew, Tov. Mitsuyan. Tov is the word for good. Mitsuyan. By the way, I'm going to put another Hebrew word up for you. See if you can read this Hebrew word because you know all of the Hebrew letters and you know the shva and the vowel of this Hebrew word. Notice this is a one-syllable word because there's only one vowel. And notice that the shva is under the first letter of a word. And whenever a shva is under the first letter of a word, it is pronounced I, as in the word fish, but it is not a syllable in itself. So can you read this one-syllable word? If you said me'od, 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 you are correct. Me'od. And there is a phrase, Alex, we're going to show everyone. This phrase is Tov me'od. And the question is, what does me'od mean? And if you know the Hebrew root of this word, it's very interesting to understand how it's translated into English. The root of this word is the three letters you see, Mem, Aleph, Daled. And anytime you see this Hebrew root, Mem, Aleph, Daled, it has something to do with strength. Anytime you see Mem, Aleph, Daled in that sequence, it has something to do with strength. And therefore, what do you think the translation would be of Tov Me'od? Tov Me'od literally means good with strength. And the English we tend to translate this into is very good. Something is good and strongly good. Strongly good in English is very good. So Tov means good. Tov Ma'od means very good. And very often you'll hear me say Mitsuyan. Mitsuyan means excellent. So there's Tov, Tov Ma'od, and Mitsuyan. And when I was a student in Talmud Torah, what I always wanted the teacher to say to me was, Tov Ma'od, Mark. She never used Mitsuyan. Tov Ma'od. And everyone who's studying Hebrew with us on From the Aleph Bet, all of you are doing Tov Ma'od, if not Mitsuyan. But Tov Ma'od is a phrase you'll hear very often. It's used in Hebrew conversation when you want to say very good to somebody. Tov Ma'od, very good. And now one more Hebrew letter. Take a look at this Hebrew letter. And I've always seen it as having a sort of Z at its top. But in any case, this is the equivalent of the English letter Z. This is the Hebrew Z, and it's called a Zion. This is the Zion in Hebrew. It makes the Z sound. So how would you read this simple syllable? With a kamatz? Za is correct. How about this syllable with a kubutz? Zu is correct, Mitsuyan. And how about this syllable with a segol? Ze is correct even with the yud. Ze is correct, Mitsuyan. And so now here is a Hebrew word. See if you can read this two-vowel, two-syllable Hebrew word. Take your time. The first syllable is simple. Ma, Mitsuyan. And now the second syllable that begins with the new letter, Zayin. Zal is correct. Put the word together. Mazal. Mitsuyan. Mazal. By the way, in Yiddish, the word is mazel. But in Hebrew, it is mazal. And what does mazal mean? Mazal is a very interesting word. Mazal comes from astrology. It has to do with the stars and constellation. It really means constellation, literally, mazal. And it's interesting, in ancient times, people believed you were born under certain stars and it would determine what kind of luck you had. The same thing is even believed by some people today, that stars somehow determine a person's character or fate. It's not for me to say yes or no, but in ancient times, it was always hoped that you would be born under a good constellation. And if you were, you would have good luck. And therefore, the word mazal came to mean luck. And here's a phrase for you now with two Hebrew words you know. Mazal tov. Mazal tov. Mitsuyan. Mazal tov. And Mazal Tov, which literally means good constellation, has also come to mean good luck. And it's also the way Jews tend to express the idea idiomatically of congratulations. When somebody does something wonderful, we wish them Mazal Tov, or in Yiddish, Mazel Tov. Mazal Tov literally means good luck, but we use it to mean congratulations because we hope you've done something so wonderful, you should now have good luck for your future. So Mazal Tov is what you say to a bar mitzvah after the service is over, or you say Mazal Tov to someone when they give birth to a child, or anything good happens to them. Mazal Tov. Literally good luck, but the sense here is also of congratulations. I hope this brings you happiness for the future. Mazal Tov. And here's another idiomatic phrase for you. You already know the word yom. Yom means day, mitsuyan. How about yom tov, mitsuyan, yom tov? What would yom tov literally mean? Good day is correct. Good day, yom tov. But Yom Tov also has an idiomatic meaning. It means holiday. For every holiday is a Yom Tov, a good day. So when you want to say holiday in Hebrew, you express it by the words Yom Tov, Mitsuyan. Incidentally, in Yiddish, you'll hear the phrase good Yontif. Yontif is the Yiddish of Yom Tov. So it's good Yontif, Yontif being holiday as an idiom. You should have a good holiday, literally good day. But in Hebrew, it's simply Yom Tov, holiday. One more Hebrew word. How about this word? A simple Hebrew word, one syllable. Shem, mitsuyan. And shem means name in Hebrew. Everybody has a shem. By the way, here's an example of where the tsere is pronounced very much like a segol. You'll very often hear this word read as shem rather than shame. But shem or shem, it means name. And how about these two words together? Shem tov or shem tov means a good name. Mitsuyan. Shem tov or shem tov, good name. And idiomatically, a shem tov means a good reputation. We hope everyone has a shem tov, not simply a good name, but a good reputation. And since we're talking about the word shem or shem, let me show you one more thing about that word. Sometimes you'll hear people use the word shem with the syllable ha in front of it. Hashem. Hashem. You'll remember ha means the in Hebrew. It's the definite article. It can be put in front of any noun. So shem or shem is name, and Hashem would be the name. And for very observant Jews, the word Hashem refers to God. And the idea in the Jewish tradition is, for very observant Jews, not only would they never pronounce God's name itself, they would not even use the word God. And so instead of using the word God, they would use the word Shem, name, Shem, to refer to God's name. And therefore, when you hear the phrase Hashem, they're referring to the name, meaning the name of God or God. And so here's one last Hebrew phrase for you today. Take a look at these 3 Hebrew words. Can you read these 3 Hebrew words? The first word has 2 vowels and therefore 2 syllables. The first syllable is ba, mitsuyan. The second syllable is al, mitsuyan. The second syllable begins with the silent ayin. You put the word together, it is Baal, or very often simply read as Baal. And if you now put the 3 words together, you get Baal Shem Tov, or Baal Shem Tov. And Baal means master, and Baal Shem Tov means master of the good name. And the Baal Shem Tov refers to an actual person. It refers to the Baal Shem Tov. This individual, known as Israel Baal Shem Tov, is the creator in the 18th century of Hasidism, the Hasidic expression of Judaism, and the Baal Shem Tov was the founder of Hasidism. So Baal Shem Tov may be a phrase you've heard all your life, and now you understand what it means. Master of the good name. It also is a master of a wonderful, special reputation, a special human being. And that was the Baal Shem Tov, who in the 18th century created Hasidic Judaism. So let's do a quick review of the letters and words you've learned on this edition of From the Aleph Bet. You've learned these letters: the Vet, which is a bet without a dagesh; the Tet, the only letter open at the top; and the Zayin, that has the sort of, Z at the very top. And you've learned these Hebrew words. This word is Tov, good, and it means good. Tov Ma'od, a phrase that means very good. And Ma'od has the sense of strengthening any noun it modifies. Mazal, which literally means constellation, and which has come to mean luck. Mazal Tov, good luck, and it is used to express the idea of congratulations in Hebrew. Yom Tov, a good day, which expresses the idea of a holiday. Shem Tov, or Shem Tov, which literally means a good name, but also has the sense of a good reputation. And the Baal Shem Tov, the master of the good name, Israel Baal Shem Tov, the 18th century extraordinary human being who created Hasidism. And that's From the Aleph Bet for this week. We hope you enjoyed it. And we also hope you will go to our website and download lesson sheets and worksheets for this lesson. Visit our website at www.shalomtv.com.
Mazel tov. Hey. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. That's what we ought to say to Ben from now on. Ben, you slept 14 hours. Oh, Lord. Oh, okay, good. Okay, remember, because I want you to turn some papers in next week. What did I tell you to do, Larry? Look up the Hebrew word for rest, and then map me out how it leads us to Yah. Okay? So I want to know the tie between rest and Yah. Okay? Y-A-H. Okay? Yah. Yah. Mazel tov. All right. See you next Wednesday. We don't have anything going on yet, right? No, we are celebrating Passover the Friday, the 5th, right? Is it third or fifth? It's the 5th, isn't it? Okay, so it's the third. The third. And we switched it for a very good reason because I didn't realize it when I looked at the calendar because I just kept thinking April 1st, we doing a teaching on Wednesday, might as well do it. But this Passover is a Sabbath Passover. Yes, it's a very special Passover that falls on the night of Sabbath, so it's a combination of the two. Okay? It shouldn't. It should say it falls on Thursday night. I don't think it was on. Where's our calendar at? Because it actually Thursday should be the evening of Passover. Yep. Is on April 1st. Okay. Well, anyway, we're doing it Friday night. So okay, well, what we thought was we would meet here Wednesday, so you don't have to mess with your show Thursday, and we do a quick class on Wednesday and then decorate everything and have it done. Would that be all right?
Can.
Then that way you don't have to mess with the Thursday program. Yeah. Well, anyway, Shabbat or Shalom from Adad Ariel. This concludes tonight's lesson. See you next Wednesday.